of the events or a repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough.
Dear Mr. Massa, I'm just trying to mind my own business. What's the matter? It's just another day, another black king captured. I'm about to lose my brain, stuck inside this ghetto rapture. I got a lot of smoke. If you want it, you can have it. They want a hat trick, but this is black girl magic. Ain't talking about the kind that'll make you disappear, but I'm talking about the power of the melanin within. Ain't looking for trouble, but I'ma say this one time. I put two dukes up if you try to touch mine. We still want justice for Samir and Trayvon. You say you don't see color, but racism ain't blind. They targeting little kids whose skin look just like mine. So I'm paranoid, it's a war zone outside. And I'm a black queen, so if you ask me to step out of my car, you gon' have to snatch me. Cause I ain't going no damn well. Had to spend my whole life living unfair. Ancestors got my back and they right here. You can never understand, it's a nightmare. Living in my black shoes by the black rules. You can keep your handshake, I don't dap coon. The white man to go nuts if he cash you. But you all on his side like a damn fool. Make it make sense.
We are oppressed.
Queen.
We are exploited. We are downtrodden.
Make it make
We are
sense.
denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Amadeus.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Amadeus.
oppression and exploitation
Queen.
away from us or aside from us is come together
Queen.
against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your
Amadeus.
hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin?
Amadeus.
Parents, pay attention to the books, the school system, given to your little children. Lies mixed with wisdom. His skin too bright, so he was blind to the prison. My skin just right, so I collide with division. You trying to pray to God, but we tired of religion. No savior saving, we got to save our savings. We used to pay miss, how we gon' make the slave rich? But who's to blame, and tell me why you complaining? We need a team effort just to rule the nation. Like a bad relationship, missing communication. We missing moderation. They're trying to get a poison to my population. No reparations. I'm getting tired of Satan.
We are oppressed.
I'm
Queen.
getting tired of waiting.
We are downtrodden.
Queen.
We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
Amadeus.
So the only way we're going to get some of this
Amadeus.
oppression and exploitation.
Queen.
All right, everybody. Sorry, I thought I was going to beat the music. Okay, so with that all being said, I was running to get my alcohol to clean my glasses. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it. All right, a whole lot going on. And so, with that all being said, they have filed legislation for the 25th Amendment on good old J.D. Vance. Please pay attention. Hold on just a second. I mean, not J.D. Vance. What am I talking about? On Trump. Okay? Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now, so with that all being said, that's not going to put us in any better of shape because J.D. Vance is even more nefarious than Trump, in my opinion. All right, so let's see who all is in here. Let me get my glasses on. All right. Hello, Deronda, Claudette, we the people. All right, just anticipate. Let's get into it. G from the land. Melvin is here. All right. Dangerous. Nessa G. All right. So I'll see you with the people. Aqua Girl Rising, Desmond. Okay, so with that all been said, let's get ready to get into it. Everyone, please like and share. Since your prophetic bastard is here. Okay, so before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. Here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, now I'm sitting here laughing at Trisha because Trisha said it took them long enough. Okay, that's exactly what I said. I said now they want to do something. But I think that whole incident with him posting the image likening himself to Jesus, I think that was probably the last straw for them. Okay. But I don't think it's going to get anywhere because JD Vance, the vice president, has to agree to it. And then we have a GOP controlled Congress, and we know they're not going to be for it. Okay. And then not to mention their spokesman, Davis Engel, was talking all the trash about Representative Jamie Raskin, who is the one who, in fact, introduced the legislation for the filing of the 25th Amendment. And so he basically said that Raskin is a stupid person. How did he put it? He said Raskin is a stupid person who thinks that being smart is what he is, or something like that. Anyway, so we're in a lot of trouble. Okay, please pay attention. And also, let me just say this too. That whole peace thing, the peace talks, the ceasefire, all of that was just all fake. Okay, because Netanyahu does not want peace. That's blatantly obvious. And remember how days ago I told you all that he was saying, I think I even showed you all the video, where he was saying that they report to him. He was saying that the Trump administration reports to him every day as it pertains to this war. So who's really running the show here? Not to mention, they said that when they were having the talk, and this is what Abbas Arakchi said, when they were having the peace talks, everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, here comes Jared Kushner interrupting the meeting. And he was clearly on the phone with someone. Okay. Netanyahu, that's who he was on the phone with. This man does not want peace, if you ask me. Okay, I think what he really wants is the complete and utter annihilation of Iran. Because look at it like this. If he wants to control the Middle East, who's standing in his way? The only obstacle that he faces is Iran, because we already know that the Saudis have sold out to him. We saw them dancing together. Remember, I showed you all the clip. We saw that they've already sold themselves out. And now, they're talking about possibly bringing Indonesia in. Now, I think they might have some sort of nefarious plan to have Indonesia come in and be, when they have this, to help them with the ground invasion that they're likely planning. Okay, so hold on. Let me pull this up real quick. Because they've made some sort of deal with Indonesia. Okay, so as of April 2026, the U.S. has pursued increased defense cooperation, including a proposal for U.S. military overflights through Indonesian airspace, during the escalating conflict. Now, the U.S. has proposed a blanket permission for U.S. military aircraft to overfly Indonesian territory, a proposal that Indonesia's foreign minister has warned could entangle Jakarta in potential South China Sea or Middle East conflicts. Now, so let's go to this clip from yesterday where they talk about Indonesia welcomes the 2-week ceasefire between U.S. and Iran. Okay, and this was reported from the AP. Okay, here we go. This is all about to get real crazy, folks. And don't forget what I told you all about Palantir. We still have to be concerned about what they're up to, because they're up to something.
About it. Meet Base 44.
Terima kasih Mbak Raita, selamat pagi rekan-rekan media. Pemerintah Indonesia mengutuk keras nelayan internasional Ibu Veronica dan kemudian masih bilang maaf saya belum kenal, silakan nanti dari kiri
sudah ada surat balasan dari pemerintah Indonesia terkait
pemerintah Indonesia menyambut baik kesepakatan gencatan senjata yang telah diumumkan selama 2 minggu antara Amerika Serikat dan Iran Dan perkembangan ini tentunya mencerminkan adanya upaya dari para pihak-pihak yang terkait untuk tetap membuka ruang diplomasi guna mendorong deeskalasi. Dan Indonesia melihat momentum ini sebagai awal yang positif dan mendorong agar kesempatan atau momentum ini dapat dimanfaatkan secara optimal untuk memajukan penyelesaian.
Okay, does anyone care to translate? Does anyone care to translate? I was hoping that would be they would have an interpreter or have an AI voice. Okay, so basically it says Jakarta, Indonesia, April the 8th of 2026. Okay, they had a press briefing. Now this is reported on yesterday, but it says this is these are the restrictions summary from April the 8th. Okay, they had a wide press briefing of Indonesia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Yvonne McQueen-Kang, the spokesperson for Indonesia's Foreign Affairs Ministry, was at the table. So basically, they say Iran and the United States and ISI said they reached a deal for a 2-week ceasefire with Tehran, saying that it would negotiate with the U.S. in Islamabad beginning on Friday. Well, we all know how that went. Okay, so the spokesperson for Indonesia's Foreign Affairs said in Jakarta on Wednesday that Indonesia supports such efforts toward a lasting solution. Okay, well, that's not telling us anything. Okay, that's not really giving us anything to go on. Oh, how is this kid up here? Okay, and so with that all being said, the bottom line is they're trying to get all these people to help, and also now they're saying, according to Alan Masrahi, they're saying that Pakistan is supposed to be getting involved and joining, okay, in the war against Iran. He says maybe they've given them a few dollars, given them some money or whatever. And he said, and here's the thing also, I want you to pay attention because when Trump keeps putting these dates off, okay, now Trump is saying that we're winning and all of that, but he's the one begging for a ceasefire. And like I told you all before, this is all just BS in my opinion, that Trump's just trying to gather, his footing. Like I told you what they did last year when they had the 12 days war back in June. Okay, so and then they said it was over, and then they come back 8 months later when they're having negotiations, and then he attacks them again. So I think that's what this is all about. I think that Trump is basically trying to re-up, and so is Satan Yahoo. Because remember, I told you all days ago, maybe last week or so, that they were out of interceptors. Okay, that's Bibi's people. They're out of interceptors. The United States is out of munitions as well as missiles. So they're trying to re-up. Okay, and that's why they want to have this time off, as far as I'm concerned. But they don't really want any peace. They don't really want to ceasefire, in my opinion. Specifically, Satan Yahoo doesn't. Okay, he's just hell bent on destruction. And like I said, I really think that he wants Iran gone, period. Okay, until they exist no more. That's just what it seems like. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to go to this article from The Independent. Here's what they say. Dems filed bill to push for the 25th Amendment to remove Trump despite its long odds of ever passing. So House Democrats on Tuesday introduced legislation that would allow Congress to study the president's fitness for office and move to remove him using the 25th Amendment, amid rising concerns from lawmakers over President Trump's violent rhetoric against Iran. Now, the bill, which has 50 Democratic co-sponsors, would create a commission to assess whether the emergency amendment should be invoked. The 17-member commission would be comprised of high-ranking former officials appointed by leaders of both parties. Now, the body could pursue steps, including a medical examination of the president to determine if he is mentally or physically unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office. Now, days ago, they were saying that if Trump takes a cognitive exam, they want to see the results because he's always talking about, oh, I scored the highest, better than anybody ever scored, and all of that. So they're going to want to see that. Now, Representative Jamie Raskin, who introduced the bill, said that public trust in Donald Trump's ability to meet his duties of office has dropped significantly to unprecedented lows, okay, as he threatens to destroy entire civilizations, unleashes chaos in the Middle East while violating congressional war powers and aggressively insulting the Pope of the Catholic Church, and then sends out artistic renderings online likening himself to Jesus Christ. and then lying about it and saying that he was posing as a doctor. And so they say there's also a more basic hurdle. The GOP controlled Congress is unlikely to advance the Democratic bill in the first place, which we already know. The White House has criticized the proposal. Now, here's what the spokesman Davis Ingle said about Raskin. He said, lightweight Jamie Raskin is a stupid person's idea of a smart person. President Trump's sharpness, unmatched energy, and historic accessibility stand in stark contrast to what we saw during the last administration, when Democrats like Raskin intentionally covered up Joe Biden's serious mental and physical decline from the American public. Well, they were covering up some things, but I think Trump's in a worse condition. Now, the proposed law follows days of alarm from Democrats who argue that the president is increasingly unfit for office and unmoored from normal checks and balances. Nearly 100 Democrats last week called for Trump to be removed using the 25th Amendment after the president made a series of seemingly genocidal threats to destroy Iranian civilization. Raskin also urged the White House physician to perform a comprehensive cognitive assessment of Trump, alleging that he has been exhibiting signs consistent with dementia and cognitive decline. Well, no lies detected there. Okay, now several right-wing commentators joined in on the criticism, and that includes Alex Jones, Candace Owens, and former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of whom called for Trump to be removed. Now, Democrats also filed articles of impeachment against Trump, as well as Defense Secretary Pete Kegsbreth, slamming the administration's military-style deportation campaign and serial usurpation of the congressional war power throughout the Iran conflict. Okay, so what do you all think about this? Do you all think they're going to get Trump out of there if they do file for the 25th Amendment? Natasha says, is that what you think it is? A split personality? Yeah, him and his demons. Okay, Jerron says Trump knows everyone got that picture that he posted for what it actually was. He called himself getting back at the Pope. Here's the thing. After he posted the picture, it's the fact that he tried to play stupid and act as though that is not what he intended to do. Okay, that was just so crazy for me. And then acting as though the fake news, as he calls it, basically says the fake news came up with that on their own and he didn't know how they arrived at that conclusion. It's just the lies of it all and then telling these asinine lies that make no sense. Okay, I'm sorry. D Major says only if Democrats win the majority, yes. Oh, I don't think so. This is not going to happen. It's just not going to. We know J.D. Vance would never agree to it, okay? And like I said, the GOP is controlling Congress at this point. So I don't think anything's going to happen with that. Now they've already just allowed Trump to do all of this damage. They've already let him just act a whole fool, okay? And then let's talk about how he sat there and talked so big and bad about they're going to block the Strait of Hormuz and nobody's getting through. And then what did I tell you all? China came right through there and they didn't do anything. Okay, they didn't do a darn thing, just like I knew they wouldn't. Trump's just all talk, but he knows who to mess with. Okay, he knows who to mess with. And also there's a video that I want us to look at so that we can do a review on this, because Pierce Morgan had a couple of people on there, and one of them was BB's people, and I promise you, he was saying almost verbatim the same thing that the other guy was saying when we watched the video last week. Okay, the same thing. But before we get into it, let's go to this clip where they say China's alliances reject U.S.-Israel aggression. Hours ago. This came out like 4 or 5 hours ago. So I'm going to share my screen. Century Prophetic Bastard said those QAnon theories said that Trump would be the last president, kind of like what happened in The Handmaid's Tale. No more election, but total fascism. You know, I put nothing past Trump. I mean, there was a time when we could say that absolutely won't happen. It's against the Constitution. You know, he needs congressional power, congressional authority. But we see now that he doesn't seem to need anything. It seems now that he can just do whatever he wants. Okay? And especially because he's got Satan Yahoo, who seems to be pulling all the strings. Okay, so let's go to this clip. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. D Major says, China said, hold my tea. Okay, is that what they said? Because they just went through there like it was nothing. I mean, I don't think they expected them to try anything with them. I really don't think I think they knew that the U.S. didn't want any smoke.
Beijing is fast emerging as the world's new diplomatic capital. Within hours, two key U.S. partners, Spain and United Arab Emirates, lined up for high-level talks with Xi Jinping. The message is unmistakable. As tensions with the United States rise, global powers are recalibrating, and China is at the center of it. For Pedro Sanchez, this is more than a routine visit. After rejecting U.S. military requests and facing trade threats from Donald Trump, Madrid is now doubling down on Beijing. Sanchez is pushing for deeper trade ties, even as he warns that China's growing trade imbalance with Europe is unsustainable, exposing a delicate balancing act.
I believe that Spain has maintained a consistent position in terms of foreign policy and should not offend anyone. On the contrary, it should respect international law. It should respect an international order based on rules where the law of the strongest does not prevail, and therefore not the law of the jungle. Where we all adhere to the institutional framework we established after World War II, which has brought about the greatest period of prosperity and peace in the world. It seems to me to be pure common sense.
At the same time, the United Arab Emirates is strengthening its strategic partnership with China. New agreements across energy, technology, and infrastructure signal a long-term shift. As the Middle East conflict intensifies, Gulf powers are hedging, expanding ties with Beijing while uncertainty grows around U.S. security guarantees.
We should strengthen communication, consolidate mutual trust, cooperate closely, oppose the world's retrogression to the law of the jungle, and jointly safeguard genuine multilateralism and global peace and development.
Sanchez did not hold back on the global stage. Calling for respect for international law, he directly criticized actions in the Middle East, pointing to violations by Israel and an illegal response from Iran. His remarks underline a widening divide, where U.S. allies are no longer aligned on war, legality, or global order.
And that multilateral system is not being respected today. Today, international legality is being trampled upon. And not only that, but those of us who raise our voices against those governments that are violating international law find ourselves, contradictorily and paradoxically, subjected to threats from those countries.
From Europe to the Gulf, the shift is becoming clear. Nations are diversifying alliances, reducing dependence on Washington, and engaging China as both economic partner and diplomatic broker. As Beijing hosts leaders from across continents, a new global reality is taking shape, one where power is no longer singular, but shared, contested, and rapidly evolving.
Okay, so we're going to get into this Pierce Morgan video, but before we do, let's go to this Tucker Carlson clip. And also, D Major Scaling, thank you for insight to the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to put an overlay on top of this.
Have you seen this? Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct? Yes. Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean, really? Maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me,
would we do that all over the world?
Well, and everybody this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your
Now, I want you to see how quickly he tried to flip the script and change the narrative. He literally was talking about DNA at first, okay, about being, the bloodline. But now all of a sudden, oh, there's people that converted. Well, if people converted, that means that they're not of the bloodline. So why should they have to be able to live there? Make it all make sense. But let's continue.
Standards, they can't live here because you just told me that they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
The descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Since you began this conversation by asking me, did I think they had a right to come here?
Yeah, that's what
my question was. On what basis do they have the right? Yeah. And you said because God granted it to them.
And I also said because that there should be a land where Jews can live in peace and safety.
And I asked you what a Jew was, and you couldn't answer it. You said it partly is religious, but doesn't have to be. It's partly genetic, but it doesn't have to be. And so that you can see why I'm confused.
I think I was very clear.
Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But
in what sense?
How do we know
that? Do you have his family tree? No, we don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. No one does. That's the point. But so how do we know that he has any connection to this land at all?
And if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language, the Bible, the land.
His ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice Judaism in any rigorous way. His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's no evidence they ever lived here. So in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years. We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans, pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're Eastern European. How does that work? Have you seen the
I find this all so interesting and clearly nefarious. So you mean to tell me that Satan Yahoo could be Polish? Okay, please pay attention. This is all very interesting. So now we're going to get into this video. We're going to get into this video that they did on Pierce Morgan's today. All right. And it was a good debate, if I may say so myself. Now, it was actually, it's like 20 minutes long, but it was actually Mehdi Hasan versus Doron Spielman. Okay, and Doron Spielman is Bibi's people. All right, but I want you all to pay attention to his answers when he's asked the question about the nuclear capabilities. Why do you feel like Iran shouldn't have them, but you feel like you should be able to? It's really the same old playbook that guy said last week. Okay, and I'm just finding it so hypocritical. Okay, and just listen to the ridiculous way he tries to explain it. And here's the thing too, they keep speaking about Iran as if we're watching that movie Minority Report, where they could predict what someone's going to do years in advance, where they could predict if someone's going to commit a crime. He keeps saying that we have to preemptively come for Iran, or they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Well, how do you know that? And if they haven't done it in all this time, why would they start? And let us not forget that Netanyahu's been saying this for 40 years, okay, at least since the 90s. Okay, remember I showed you all the footage. He's been saying, oh, he's going to have a nuclear weapon in a week. Oh, he's going to have it in 6 months. Oh, he's going to have it in 2 weeks. And he never had it. Okay, but anyway, the rantings of a madman as far as I'm concerned. So let's go to the footage. Of course, I have to use an overlay. I'm also going to use a little bit of background music just to be on the safe side. Okay, how's that audio? How's the audio? Is that loud enough? You guys, because y'all know I can't hear the music on my end. How does that sound? Is that okay? It's not too loud, right? Since your prophetic bastard said Polish people are very racist. They're attacking brown and black people. Okay. For decades. Okay, great. So you all said it's fine. Thank you. All right. I have heard the same thing, beloved. I have heard the exact same thing. Okay, so let's get into it. Awkward Girl Rising, you can't hear it? Okay, now let me get this overlay.
For 35 years, Aquatot Swim School has
whether Israel is the barrier to ending it. While many Israelis believe the war is righteous and necessary, the damage to Israel's global standing could be devastating. Spain is openly calling Netanyahu a war criminal. This weekend, Turkey compared him to Hitler, and record numbers now look unfavorably on Israel and the United States, where plenty of people think, with an increasing body of evidence, that Netanyahu forced Trump into a disaster. Well, joining me to debate this is Mehdi Hasan, founder of Zeteo News, and Doron Spielman, the reservist IDF spokesman and author of When the Stones Speak. All right, well, welcome to both of you. Doron Spielman, welcome back to Uncensored. The New York Times piece that came out several days ago painted a pretty extraordinary picture of the Prime Minister of Israel sitting in the Situation Room at the White House with the head of Mossad appearing on a large screen and painting a picture of what would happen if the United States joined Israel in taking out the supreme leader of Iran and his top people who are all going to be congregating. That inevitably what would happen is the IRGC, the sort of ruling regime underneath the supreme leader, would collapse. The people of Iran would rise up, and that nobody would care or notice the Strait of Hormuz. That would be an irrelevance to all this. And all that's happened is that, and a lot of people in the room on the American side thought this was fantasy land. And all that's happened is the first part happened. The Ayatollah and his top people were taken out in a successful strike, but the IRGC remain in place. The people haven't risen up, and the Iranians have worked out the Strait of Hormuz can be used as an economic weapon to rival anything that people can do against them militarily and cause enormous global economic damage. Do you accept that the Americans were sold a pup here?
Pierce, thank you for having me. I think actually, Pierce, we're going to look back at this as a war that was as consequential as perhaps if the West had information in 1936 to act against Nazi Germany. We have to put this in perspective. Wars take time. Iran has had 40 years to embed. There's not been a single US president, starting with Ronald Reagan, who I greatly respect, going all the way through Clinton and Obama and Biden, who's been willing to pay the political capital to stop the Iranian terror regime, the largest regime in the world, from developing a nuclear weapon. And why? Because it requires a preemptive strike. You have to preemptively stop Iran. If you don't preemptively stop Iran from having a bomb, the alternative is you're only going to stop it when that bomb lands on your soil. We don't want to have a 9/11 where instead of 2 passenger planes, we're dealing with an atomic weapon. And
I'm sorry, I know he, of all people, didn't bring up 9/11. Do y'all hear it? Do y'all hear it? A 9/11? Okay, he's grossly embellishing. Okay, please pay attention.
I think President Trump has been incredibly consistent from the very beginning. And here, obviously, he shares a value with Israel, which is that Iran cannot be a nuclear regime. It's very, very simple. You cannot have an Iranian terror regime that instead of blocking the Straits of Hormuz with ballistic missiles, they can block the Straits of Hormuz with a nuclear weapon. You can't have a regime that when they shoot at Israel, which we've had more than 6,000 of their weapons, both from Hezbollah and Iran, we've had over 1,000 over the last 12 months, any one of them loaded with a nuclear weapon. And we have to take a step back here. We see the face of the regime. They're an evil monster. They're hitting their own allies. How could we even conceive that we would not take the opportunity to eliminate this before it grows? And the shock, Pierce, is that I have people like Mehdi, who's going to join us shortly, and people all over these kind of this liberal fantasy land that you can transplant what you hear in the Oxford corridors if you just act nice and you kind of reason with them. Well, maybe they want a bomb, but they're not really going to use it. It's only for civilian energy. What are we talking about? Wake up. This is the face of terror with a bomb that's being stopped. And therefore, I think President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it should be the entire Western world, is now has an opportunity to stop this before it happens. And I think, if anything, it's praiseworthy. Praiseworthy, Pierce.
Okay, Mehdi Hasan, it's praiseworthy.
Well, it's not praiseworthy. The entire war has been a disaster. I think everyone agrees on that. Even the Israeli opposition agrees it's been a disaster the way Netanyahu and Trump have handled it. I think any objective person can look at the state of this war, even if you are pro the US government, pro the Israeli government, and say it's been a success. But let's put that to one side. I want to take on board what Doron said across the board, because a lot of it was pure projection. I mean, I'm hearing him talk about monsters in charge of governments, the face of terror, nuclear weapons. Who are we talking about here, Iran or Israel? Because I would ask a few questions for your viewers to consider today as they listen to Doron. Which country in the Middle East has nuclear weapons? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East has not signed the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East is defying a UN Security Council resolution calling for that country to open up its nuclear facilities to IAEA inspectors? It's not Iran, it's Israel. Which country in the Middle East attacked 6 countries in the Middle East last year? 6. It wasn't Iran, it was Israel. So Iran, for all its many sins and crimes, is not the rogue nuclear state in the Middle East right now. That country is Israel. As you said, Piers, in your introduction, global public opinion has made it very clear that they see Israel as the threat to regional and international peace right now. You pointed out, Piers, that it's Benjamin Netanyahu dragging American Republican presidents into wars of choice, Iraq in 2002-3, and now Iran in 2025, 2026.
Yeah, I mean, Doron Spielman, the flaw in your argument is just a bunch of woolly liberals who didn't want this to happen. If you look at actually the reaction from American conservatives, you know, you got Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones. You've got Trump supporters like Joe Rogan, Theo Von, and others, the big podcasters who helped get him elected. There's a massive cross-section of very influential people, many of whom are conservative Trump supporters historically, who have condemned this war and want nothing to do with it. So I don't think you can just bat it away as, oh, it's just a bunch of, you know, liberals throwing their toys out of the pram. It's not.
You know, I love the word projection because projection is used by people who don't live in the real world, because the alternative to a projection when it comes to a nuclear weapon. When does that projection end, Mehdi? Does it end when Iran is trying to develop enriched uranium? And already back before the JCPOA had already developed 6 times, and now they've developed almost 90% of enriched uranium, which is 20 times the amount you need for an atomic weapon. Is that for civil uses? Is that still a projection, or is it when they actually press that little button and it lands in the U.S.?
Well, let me ask you. Well, let me before.
Hold on, Pierce.
Well, hang on. On that point, Doron, on that point, given you said
projection that 22 civilians have been killed
but let me
from
ask
ballistic missiles, and we've had 600 warheads on Israel. We've had warheads land on the UAE.
2,000 people in Lebanon and 3,000 people in Iran.
And regarding, this is so funny. Regarding Iran, you put them on the court bench. You call in someone for a character reference, comparing Iran to Israel. Who's Iran? Well, they've developed a global terror regime that stretches from the Middle East through Latin America into Europe. They have the Houthis who've stopped shipping and have fired missiles and weapons both at Israel and U.S. assets. They created Hezbollah, the world's largest terror organization. That is also one of the largest drug organizations.
Actually, you created Hezbollah by illegally invading Lebanon.
Who committed October 7th. They just killed 30,000 of their people in the streets for protesting. I mean, do we need such a projection? I mean, only an idiot would actually say we need a projection to understand what Iran's intent is. We don't even need to try to.
Now, first off, I want you to pay attention to how he's spewing insults, okay, saying only an idiot. Okay, first of all, he tried to imply that Mehdi was projecting, and now he's saying only an idiot would need projection. Okay, please pay attention. So he's clearly, spewing insults. And then for him to sit here and talk about the Houthis and Hezbollah, why does he think Hezbollah even came about? It was because they were constantly attacking Lebanon. Okay, and then pay attention to him using Trump's talking points when he says that Iran murdered 30,000 of their own protesters. Okay, because that's one of the numbers that Trump threw out. I showed you all the real receipts. Okay, the number was much less, 3,117 to be exact. And not to mention, this only happened because Trump sent weapons to the Kurds to give to the protesters. And not to mention, they also allegedly had Mossad agents out there acting as provocateurs to ramp up the crowd. So they caused this mess, and now he's sitting here trying to blame them and acting like they're terrorists. But how many wars do we know of Iran starting? I can't think of any. Okay, I can't think of any. Now, with that all being said, let's continue. It's all crazy.
Shoving it in your face, Mehdi. You're in absolute denial. And so is Candace Owens, and so is Tucker Carlson. And President Trump, thank God, is
I'm not here to speak for. Hold on, Doron. Let me respond. You said a lot there. I'm not here to speak for Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, who I've been very critical of. I'm not here to speak for Iran, who I've been very critical of. I'm here to talk about facts. You say projection. Let's just deal with your little speech in 2 ways. Number one, even if I were to accept your premise that Iran's nuclear program was a threat, even though the IEA and US intelligence say it wasn't, but let's accept your premise that it was a threat. This is not the way you stop a nuclear program. We had the JCPOA, which Israel opposed, Donald Trump opposed. Iran was enriching at 3.67%, had no pathway to a bomb under the JCPOA, as every major disarmament and nuclear expert said at the time. It was Israel, Netanyahu, Trump that opposed this, and now we have them at 60% enriched uranium because of the actions of Israel and Donald Trump. So if you claim to want to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon, you've done a very bad job of doing that. In fact, if you're the Iranian leadership now, you probably want a bomb more now than ever before because you've been attacked by Israel 2 years running. That's one point. On the point about projection, the point I'm making is this, Doron, and you dodged it, so let me ask it again. The only country in the Middle East right now that can put its finger on a button and fire a nuke is Israel. The only country threatening to fire the nuke it has, Ben-Gvir smiled and nodded the other day when an Israeli journalist suggested nuking Iran, is Israel. Why is your country, Doron, you're a spokesman for the military, in violation of UN Resolution 487, which was unanimously passed, including by the Reagan administration in 1981, calling for Israel to open up its nuclear facilities to the IAEA? Why wouldn't you allow IAEA inspectors to look at your illicit secret nuclear weapons program?
First of all, I think you and I both know that there are no binding United Nations resolutions against Israel. Not in
Yes,
any
there is.
sphere.
UN Security Council Resolution 487.
There's not a
You're wrong,
single
Doron.
Series 7
You're wrong,
binding
Doron.
UN resolution.
You're wrong.
And there is a
You're wrong.
number of
You're lying.
binding-
Everyone can
5
Google it right now.
Series 7 binding
UN Security
resolutions
Council Resolution
against Iran's
487.
nuclear program.
People can
Now,
Google it.
Mehdi, you just said it yourself.
You can talk
I mean,
over
you
me.
basically just
UN
made the case
Security
for
Council
Israel.
Resolution
You're saying that Israel...
487.
Mehdi, one second. We
You
can't
can talk
both
over
at
me.
the
I'll
same
wait
time.
and make my point again.
Okay,
Well, let me just make one
go
point
ahead,
and then
go
I'll let
ahead.
you speak indefinitely. UN Resolution 487. You can Google it right now. People can watch it at home. In 1981, the Reagan administration voted for it. It calls on Israel to urgently open up its facilities to IAEA controls. That is a UN Security Council resolution, which is binding under international law. Israel has been in violation of it for 45 years. Why are you in violation of it? And do you accept that Israel has nuclear weapons? If you won't accept that, why should we take anything you say seriously on anything else?
It is...
Okay, so let's see what it says because I Googled it. Okay. UN Security Council Resolution 487, adopted unanimously on June 19th of 1981, strongly condemned ISIS' June 7th, 1981 military attack, Operation Opera, on Iraq's nuclear facilities as a clear violation of the UN Charter. Okay, so the resolution deemed the attack a serious threat to the IAEA safeguards regime and demanded that ISIS cease such actions. Okay, so they condemn the attack. They talk about the rights of the states, where they recognize Iraq's and all states' inalienable right to develop nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. Okay, then they talk about the safeguards. They noted that Iraq was a party to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, known as NPT, and that its facility was under IAEA inspection. Now, here are the demands on Bibi's people. Call on ISIS to refrain from, or is not real, to refrain from future attacks and to place its own nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguards. And then the redress, considered Iraq entitled to appropriate redress for the destruction of its property. Okay, so this man, what he said is absolutely right. I don't know why he's sitting up here lying. Why is he sitting up here lying like people can't Google it? And I'm glad he told people to, because some people don't research. But, you know, him telling people you can Google it right now, hopefully they did, so they can see the truth. He's sitting up here lying straight to everybody's face.
It's not a binding resolution. However, I want to hit your point because I think you just answered it for me. You said that this has been, Israel, according to you, has been in violation for 40 years. So therefore, you're assuming Israel's had a nuclear weapon for 40 years. Can you tell me one time, Mehdi?
It has.
One single time.
Are you denying
Israel
that?
has threatened
Are you denying
another
that?
country with
Doron,
nuclear
are you
war?
denying?
Can you tell me, Mehdi, one time when an Israeli prime minister under an entire command center would have the ability with massive controls, just one second.
I answered your question.
That is
last week, Doron.
To another country. Hold on, Mehdi. Another country, as you and I both know, that Iran, who you have projections about, this.
I'm not going to keep interrupting, but here's the thing that I absolutely hate. People like this, when they see they're losing the debate or the argument or whatever, then you're bringing facts and all they have is just what they're saying. They don't have any facts or proof to substantiate it. What they'll do then is they'll start telling you what you know. You and I both know. Well, you know, he's already said it twice. I noticed this is a common thing with people like that. Okay, but let's continue.
Supreme leader, right? Ali Khamenei, which I'm very curious why you defend him and his entire regime. Ali Khamenei refers to Israel as the little Satan. And we both know how he refers to the United States, meaning the spiritual leader. You've called him a spiritual leader.
Doron, you're not, let me jump in here. Doron, let me jump in. Let me jump in, please.
Calls America the great Satan.
Let me jump in,
and you want to give him a nuclear...
Now, with that all being said, he sat here and accused Mehdi of projecting. But what is he doing? He's gaslighting and deflecting. He's all far off the topic. Like, get back to the question at hand. But he doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to answer those questions.
Stop talking.
And the US are fighting together against
please
terror
stop
regimes.
talking. I am here, and I am moderating this panel, much as you both like to just get off without me. Mehdi raises the point I have raised with a number of pro-Israeli guests in the last few weeks. Why is it that Israel does not admit it has nuclear weapons? And Are you prepared to do so now?
Israel, as we all know, is a state that upon its very founding faced an existential threat from 7 countries that attacked it. We also know that in 1967, Israel was attacked by 3 countries, followed by 1973, followed by the Gulf War in 1981, followed by Hezbollah and Hamas. There's probably not been another country on earth
What's this got to do with you being transparent about having nuclear weapons?
According to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Israel has not signed and therefore is not bound by, Israel, if it maintains a nuclear arsenal, it has not used it, and if it maintains it, it is because it
Why are you saying if? You know the answer.
Hold on. And since the Holocaust, which today is International Holocaust Day in Israel, it's Israeli Holocaust Day, and we are mourning tonight 6 million Jews that have died. Israel maintains the ability never to rely on anyone else, and therefore it is.
I'm sorry, but why did he bring that up again? He says that they maintained or they decided never to rely on anyone else again. So that's his excuse for why they should be allowed to have nuclear capabilities, but no one else could, or at least not Iran. Do y'all hear this? Is that why he brought that up? Okay, victim card clearly played, but let's continue.
Israel is not bound by the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. It didn't sign on. Who is bound? The United States is bound, and it has followed it.
Yeah, but how can you demand?
Pierce, Iran,
Doron,
I answered
Doron,
you.
You're not answering my question.
Because of an existential
Doron,
threat.
Doron.
But I just want to say Iran has signed it and violated it from 2002.
How can you, with a straight face, defend Israel's determination for full transparency by another country over its nuclear weapon ambitions when you have so far steadfastly ducked my very simple question as to whether Israel has its own nuclear weapons? And
I have not ducked your question.
Do you have them or not?
Pierce, and I explained to you that while I do not have firsthand knowledge of Israel's nuclear facilities, like you, I've heard the foreign reports.
You don't know. You don't know.
Hold on. I'm answering.
Pierce, as a reservist IDF spokesman, you don't know of Israel's news.
I would assume it is highly likely, as do you, that Israel has a nuclear program. Israel never signed the NPT, and the reason Israel never signed the NPT, I would assume, even though I wasn't in the room, is because Israel maintains its individual right to defend itself. To compare that now to Iran and a potential nuclear program in a regime that is the world's #1 global terrorism, or they are not just terrorism, they engineered the idea of terrorism. They represent terror that has killed 241 American Marines. They have killed 85 Jews in Buenos Aires. They have killed thousands of U.S. soldiers with roadside bombs. They have carried out 22, according to MI5, mass casualty attempts in England since 2022. They just killed 40,000 of the protesters. Israel has a protest about cottage cheese. Israel's protests every day. How can you compare the idea that Israel would have a nuclear weapon and Iran, the potential of Hitler?
Let Mehdi respond.
Now, wait a minute. Somebody let me know. Did he just say that they have protests about cottage cheese? Is that what he said? Did he say that they have protests every day and they have protests about cottage cheese? Somebody tell me if that's what he said once in the chat. Did he say cottage cheese just now? Ishkan said, I hope he got his shekels. Reggie said, that's what you heard. Okay, so he said cottage cheese. Now I want you all to pay attention. Because what were they talking about in those Epstein files? Cottage cheese. Okay? Cottage cheese was all in throughout those Epstein files. Now, I find that interesting for him to just throw that out there. Why would he say cottage cheese? Please pay attention. Okay, please pay attention. That was a big topic in one portion of the Epstein files. He just told on himself as far as I'm concerned. But let's continue.
I noticed that Doron said that Iran killed 30,000 of its people a few minutes ago. Now he's saying 40,000. By the end of this discussion, it'll be 100,000. It's funny how they inflate the numbers of people killed in Iran, but never recognize the 100,000 people you killed in Gaza, that your military killed in Gaza, 100,000 people minimum killed in Palestine, which are actually verified numbers by international organizations like the Lancet Medical Journal. You deny those. But let's put that to one side and deal with some of the stuff you've been saying. Number one, just some fact checks. A UN Security Council resolution is binding under international law. The Reagan administration voted for it, and you've never followed it. You proudly say you haven't signed the NPT. People watching at home will laugh their heads off. You're basically saying, because we didn't sign an international treaty, we don't have to follow international law. So then why doesn't Iran just pull out of the NPT? Why doesn't everyone just pull out of the NPT and do what Israel did? You say Israel reserves the right to defend itself. That old chestnut. No other country in the Middle East is allowed to defend itself. Israel is the country that bombed, count them, 6 countries in the Middle East last year. I can't think of a single country on planet Earth, aside from the US and Israel, that bombed half a dozen countries in the calendar year 2025. That is your country that you're defending, a rogue nation that bombs whoever it sees fit and then claims to be a victim.
Now, do y'all hear this? 6 countries in 1 year, but they have the nerve to call Iran the aggressor, to act as though they're a terrorist regime? How do you explain that? Okay, and then you're doing this and then playing the victim? Like, make it all make sense.
You say that, for example, you mentioned in your comments, you said 1967 we were attacked. Complete flat falsehood. Israel attacked first in 1967. Everyone knows that. It's a documented fact. You can call it a preemptive war, but you can't just lie on here and say you were attacked. You were not. You said that Iran pioneered the use of terrorism in the Middle East. Actually, that was the Zionist gangs. That was the Stern Gang and the Irgun who blew up British diplomats, bombed the King David Hotel, hung British sergeants, attacked British civilians and military and Arabs. It was actually Jewish and Zionist terror gangs that pioneered terrorism in the Middle East 100 years ago. So a lot of your facts are just completely wrong, and you're dodging Piers' central point, which is that you do have nukes. You know you have nukes. You're not allowed to say you have nukes, which makes this whole conversation so absurd. But the idea that you would come on TV and go after someone else's civil nuclear program. Remember, the US says Iran did not have a weapons program, while you yourself have weapons. That's the US intelligence community's view. They said last year, that is what the US said last year. The US annual.
Then why do we need the JCPOA?
Let me read out the quote to you.
Program that you support.
Why do we let me read out the quote to you.
A JCPOA.
Let me read out the quote to you. If you stop interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you, Doron. You spoke for a while. In 2025, this is what the Director of National Intelligence said. We continue to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. A country that doesn't have nukes is being lectured by you, a country that does have nukes. It would be funny if it wasn't so tragic and you hadn't killed so many Iranian kids as part of your supposedly disarmament program.
Well, let me ask you, Doron, let me ask you a question.
Can I respond?
Doron, let me. Okay, first, you can respond.
Can I respond?
You can respond, but let me ask you.
Let me ask you another question. Like Israel wasn't attacked in '67. That Israel is basically decided
to
launched
the '67 war. That's a fact.
To Mehdi, what Mehdi does is he tells a fantasy story.
It's historical
like
fact.
Israel woke up one morning 2 years ago and said, "You know what? We're a country of 9 million people. Let's go attack 6 countries throughout the Middle East."
Not 2 years ago, Doron. Not 2 years ago.
Because we just
78 years ago you've been bombing your neighbors.
By the way,
so 78 years you've been bombing your neighbors from the very beginning.
For a very, very, very long time. If
and you interrupted me, Doron.
I assume that you want to hear my answer. That's why we're here. October 8th.
You interrupted me when I was trying to read out the threat assessment, remember.
October 8th, there was also a war. That war began when Hezbollah saw Israel weaken on October 7th and launched a campaign of 6,000 rockets at Israel. And then Israel responded. Iran fired 500 ballistic missiles, which has been attacking Israel consistently. And Israel decided back then with the United States that it is time to deal with the #1 terror regime in the entire world. And what I hear from you, Mehdi, is you make an incredibly compelling case, diverting the conversation away from stopping Iran's nuclear power by hyper-focusing on the Israeli democracy that you yourself admit has had nuclear weapons for 40 years and never used them. And you were essentially getting a get out of jail free card for Iran.
Now I want you to think about the point that he just tried to make. He told Mehdi that you yourself said that they have had the nuclear weapons for 40 years and never used them. Well, we can say the same thing about Iran. Bibi Netanyahu has been saying for 40 years that they have nuclear capabilities. and that they're going to use it next week. They're going to use it in 2 weeks. Oh, in 6 months they're going to have a nuclear bomb, and they're going to do something. He has said this repetitively. So now he wants to say, "Oh, we've had it for 40 years, according to you, but we never use it." Well, when did Iran use it? When did they use it? And when did they not comply with having things, inspected and all of that, and going by certain guidelines and signing certain agreements? They didn't do any of that. So how does he make any sense? He doesn't. Absolutely egregious.
Ron, Mehdi, are you willing, if there's a possibility in your projection, if you projected that Iran would have a nuclear weapon, would you be concerned?
All right, well, I want to ask a question based around that, which is, hang on. If I could just ask a question of Doron now, which is this, if the whole purpose of this war was to stop Iran developing a nuclear weapon, do you concede now that if you don't get the enriched uranium, either voluntarily handed to you by Iran or by seizure, which would require the use of ground forces, that the whole war will have been a failure? Do you accept
No, it wouldn't have all been a failure, because obviously we will not get the most important thing, which is to remove the enriched uranium from Iran, and that is the number one.
So it would be a failure if you don't get the uranium.
If we do not get the uranium, the number one goal of this war will not be fulfilled, and it's going to put the war in a sense of stagnation, which I think will probably continue until that happens, for one of two reasons. Either Iran is going to develop a nuclear weapon and threaten the rest of the world, and the world will then try to stop them, probably too late, or at some point in the future, I don't know when, either the US or Israel will try to make that happen. However, this war has been incredibly successful for a very simple reason. We have destroyed Iran's nuclear production capabilities, its launching timers, its hard fuel, all of the many things that go in order to take that bomb, put it on a warhead, and shoot it have been destroyed. Their ballistic missile program has been weakened.
How do we know? Because last summer, with respect,
their
Doron,
leadership and the planning mechanism has been destroyed.
Doron, with respect, last summer, after the 12-day war, we were assured that the whole nuclear capability of Iran had been put back decades. It was done, flattened, it was over. 8 months later, a massive war was launched against Iran because it turned out that was all baloney. Now you're spewing, what many people will say is exactly the same rhetorical baloney again. But you're also conceding that if the enriched uranium remains in Iran, this war's a failure. And I don't see how
I said it isn't a failure because you'll set back a terror regime that operates with ballistic missiles, operates as
the regime remains in place.
Hamas, you'll have taken, again,
the supreme leader's son is the new Ayatollah, right?
Pierce.
Yeah.
Say this again, I'm sorry.
The Ayatollah, the supreme leader who was killed, his son is his replacement. The IRGC regime remains in place. There's been no protests from the people of Iran, and the Straits of Hormuz have become a massive weapon for the Iranians to use economically, as they also simultaneously attack all their Gulf state neighbors. So the idea that my point is the idea that at the end of this, Iran keeps its enriched uranium, you would have to admit, in that eventuality, the war's a failure.
Because a war, Pierce, it's very rare that you get a victory, what's called, unconditional surrender of any enemy. I don't think it's happened since World War II. What you get in wars are cumulative gains. Again, this is not fast food. It's like a McDonald's drive-through. The woman says, "What do you want?" You say, "I want, the end of the Iranian regime." This is a process that began a number of months ago with the 12-day war. And what Israeli intelligence and U.S. intelligence saw is as soon as that war ended, Iran went right back to building a nuclear program, developing the nuclear sites, digging for the uranium that was there. They refurbished their ballistic missile sites and were expanding it from 2,500 to 7,000. And like you said, that now that we see Ali Khamenei has been killed, what do we see happen? They have not reformed. They put in another member of the exact same family, meaning this regime is evil and has
you have done this.
Now.
Hold on, can I actually say
let Mehdi respond now.
This is absolutely amazing to me that he's even sitting there trying to act as though he has some moral high ground to be on. He's talking about they didn't change a thing. They put another person from his family right back in there. Dude, your prime minister, the person who's in charge, is a war criminal. They're waiting to arrest him for crimes against humanity, for war crimes also. What is he talking about? It's the nerve of it all for me. It is the nerve of it. He's acting like they don't have blood on their hands. Let's continue.
Pierce, it's the idea of good standing against
Mehdi's
evil.
response, please.
Welcome to Klondike Adventures game.
So what both of you are missing to an extent is it's not really about what uranium is left in the country. It's about intent. You have left, the Israelis and the American government have left the Iranian government, not just in place. There hasn't been the regime change that Netanyahu lied to Trump and said would be easy in that situation from meeting. They've not just left the Iranian regime in place, but they've left the Iranian government with the clear intent to want to have to defend itself, to use Doron and the Israelis' favorite phrase, their right to self-defense. If you were in the Iranian government today, would you not want to get nuclear weapons? Would you not think I've been attacked 2 years running by people I was in the middle of negotiations with? Every time I'm in a negotiation with them, they kill our negotiators, they kill our top foreign diplomats, they threaten to kill more of us. Every time we're doing a deal, whether it's in Geneva or Vienna or Oman, they attack us, which is what the Israelis did last year. Why would you not want to get nuclear weapons? Why would you not look at North Korea and say, no one dares touch North Korea because they have nukes? Why would you not listen to Doron speaking on Piers Morgan saying, well, we didn't sign the NPT, so we don't have any obligations not to have nukes? Why wouldn't Iran say, well, we're going to pull out of the NPT, we're going to do what North Korea did, and we're going to do it because the world saw us get illegally attacked 2 years running? Doron asked me, do I want Iran to have nuclear weapons? No, I'm anti-nuclear weapons. I'm not like you. I don't support nukes and have a secret nuclear weapons program. I supported the JCPOA, which in the very first paragraph, Iran affirmed never to build nuclear weapons, which said that Iran could only enrich to 3.67%, which got rid of a lot of their highly enriched uranium. You, the Israeli government, Netanyahu, stopped the JCPOA, wrecked the JCPOA. You helped Iran enrich to 20 and then 60. You brought us to this situation, the Israeli government and the Donald Trump administration. So don't lecture the rest of us about nukes when you have nukes and you've now incentivized Iran to get nukes. Every year,
Mehdi, what
UN
there is
General
no
Assembly
doubt about
Piers,
is
there
that
is a
they had
resolution.
20%
Let me just finish my point, Doron. You and Piers spoke for a very long time. Let me finish my point. You said you don't like interruptions. I'll finish in a moment. The UN General Assembly votes every year to have a weapons of mass destruction free zone in the Middle East. Iran votes for that resolution. Everyone in the world votes for that resolution. 2 countries don't vote for that resolution. That is the US and Israel, because Israel wants to be the only power. Well, Iran doesn't have nukes, and you do.
You are so naive, Mehdi. It's unbelievable. Listening to you,
you can't even tell. You can't even tell. Doron, you can't even tell the viewers today whether Israel has nukes.
Iran.
You can't even say one
realize,
statement.
Mehdi, you're defending
Doron, why should anyone believe anything you
say? You
say?
don't know the hidden nuclear program.
No, I'm not actually.
The nuclear program is Iran. It's Ali Khamenei. That's your leader.
No, the US disagree with you. And the IAEA.
I mean,
there's no evidence.
Which one are you? Because you're defending. You sound like Mehdi Khamenei. We're a nice program. We vote against nuclear weapons.
Of course.
We just want
go for racist insults.
2000.
You heard this? He said you sound like Mehdi Khamenei. First of all, he's just mad because that man's not agreeing with him. Okay? Now he's just trying to spew insults and low blows because he has nothing else left. He's not proving his point. He's not making any sense. In fact, he sounds insidiously obtuse because everything he's saying is just a whole load of BS, and it's also hypocritical. Okay? How do you even justify it? You can't. And he keeps talking about the former supreme leader. That man was nowhere near as nefarious as Satan Yahoo. Okay, I'm sorry. Please make it all make sense.
That's all you have left.
We already had 20% enriched uranium. I mean, who are you speaking
Doron,
as an American citizen?
And yet,
as a British citizen?
Hold on. You're going back to 2014, Doron?
2014.
Who are you speaking as? You're speaking as the Israeli military.
And it was reported before the JCPOA.
And exactly. When did the JCPOA get signed, Doron? Do you know what year?
2015.
Do you know what year the JCPOA was signed?
2015.
Exactly, the year later. So why are you going back to 2014? It was resolved in 2015.
And they never had to
then you
the
and Trump came along and wrecked it. No, the Trump administration vouched and said Iran was complying with the JCPOA. So when you keep saying, why do you trust Iran? Iran did what it had to do. It, according to the IAEA,
let's unpack the JCPOA first.
They followed the deal. No.
Mehdi, tell us the conditions of the JCPOA.
I'm going to tell you what happened under the JCPOA.
No, tell me about what does the JCPOA say? You know, tell us all the truth.
I do know, and I'm telling you now. the JCPOA allowed Iran to enrich at 3.67%. When did they start enriching to 20%? When you and your friends in the Israeli government and Donald Trump tore up the JCPOA. Jim Mattis, a general in the American military, who was defense secretary, not under the JCPOA. No, they did not. As every IAEA inspector vouched for.
What do you think happened to that 20%?
By the way, Doron, what enriched uranium does Israel have? Because the IAEA aren't allowed into Israel. So why don't you tell us? You say we're naive. Everyone watching
Again,
knows
you're
that
comparing
about your
Israel
own country's
with Iran,
nuclear weapons.
which is
yes, I am. I'm
morally
comparing the country that has attacked
which is
6
morally
countries.
insane. Israel's not closing the Straits of Hormuz.
Why? You're worse.
International shipping.
You're morally worse
Israel's
in Iran.
not funding
You're
proxies
morally
throughout
worse
the
in
Middle
Iran.
East.
You bombed
Israel
6
doesn't
countries.
target Marines.
You bombed 6
Mehdi,
countries.
Israel does not
You
target
bombed 6
Marines
countries
or
last year.
Hezbollah or Hamas.
Did he say they don't target Marines? But aren't they the ones that targeted the Navy? I'm sorry, in 1967 with the USS Liberty? Do y'all hear this?
Or
Bombed 6
kill its own
countries.
people in the streets, even though you think it does. Israel
You just
is an open
murdered
democracy
children
with
in
a leadership
Lebanon
that
last
you don't
week.
particularly like, and we
Doron,
do.
your military just killed 300 people in a single 10-minute span last week. You blew up children in strollers. You killed a 1-year-old at a funeral. You killed 300 people in Lebanon in one day last
made
week.
that battlefield,
You filled
Mehdi?
up the hospitals. You
Mehdi,
bombed
who laid
aid
out that
distribution
battlefield?
centers.
Who created that battlefield?
You did. You violated
We
the
created the
ceasefire with
battlefield?
Hezbollah 15,000 times. Yes,
Was
you
there,
violated
was there
the
anyone
ceasefire
over there? Was there
15,000
anyone
times,
called
according to the UN.
Hezbollah that was
Doron, I know
embedded
you
in
don't
that
like facts,
population?
right? But you haven't
Mehdi,
brought a single
Mehdi,
fact to this discussion.
Iran wasted people on
15,000
the
ceasefire
streets and they
violations.
killed them in cold blood. Israel
Why did you
tells
violate the
people of
ceasefire with
southern
Hezbollah?
Lebanon, please move out of the way so that we can actually kill Hezbollah. And
No.
Pierce had on
Then
just
why did you
last
kill
week,
300 people in
Salah
10 minutes?
Salah Machnow
Why did you
was
carry
just
out
on
Lebanon's
in
October the
Lebanon.
7th last week?
You know what? It's not about you. It's not
Why
about
did you
me.
carry out
Listen to
Lebanon's
the
October the
Lebanese.
7th last
Salah
week?
Machnow was on
Why did you
last
kill
week.
300
And I think
people?
you should listen to what he
300
said.
people
He
you
was on
killed.
Pierce's show and he spoke
Doron,
the
do you not
truth
feel ashamed
that the Lebanese
your military
people want
massacred
Hezbollah
300
gone.
people in 10 minutes? How do you sleep at night?
I'm sure it is true. I'm sure it's true.
300
Many
people in 10
Lebanese people
minutes.
would like Hezbollah gone, but it's also true that many Lebanese people right now are running terrified for their lives because of the bombing
million
raids
people.
over them.
A million people displaced
and a million
from their homes
people
by
have been
Israel.
displaced from their homes. And there's a horrible
Pierce,
familiar
if we
pattern
don't displace
that follows
them,
what happened in Gaza.
Pierce, if we don't displace them, then I go on this show and we're accused of killing civilians, right? And if we do
you are
displace
killing
them,
civilians
then we're
anyway.
accused of
You
displacement.
told them
So
they
my
can't
question
come
to you is
back.
this. Wait,
Don't
my
lie,
question is very
Doron.
simple.
Don't gaslight us. You've
Hold
told
on,
them
I'm
they
gonna let
can't
you
come
speak.
back. That
Mehdi
means
Hasan,
it's
I have
ethnic
one
cleansing.
question for you. Does Israel have a right to respond to Hezbollah after they shot 6,000 rockets at us unprovoked on October 8th, 2023, one day after October 7th? Do we have a right to respond?
Any country has a right to defend itself. Of course it does.
Does Israel have
Does
a right?
Lebanon have a
Because
right
you
to
seem
defend
to-
itself from Israeli invasion?
How?
Hold
should we
on.
defend
Doron,
ourselves?
you always start these timelines. You start these timelines in weird places. You say 2014, ignoring what happened in 2015. You say October 8th, 2023. You ignore what happened in 2024, Doron. Let me remind the viewers of Piers Uncensored. There was a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah since the end of 2024. According to the UN, according to UN peacekeepers that Israel keeps attacking, you keep attacking Irish and Nepalese and Indonesian peacekeepers. The UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon say Israel violated the ceasefire, not 1,000 times, not 5,000 times. They say you violated the ceasefire 15,000 times over the last 18 months. So please don't come and tell me about unprovoked
I don't know
rockets.
about your
You,
numbers,
Israel,
however,
violated that
I have
ceasefire.
one question.
You killed,
Why did
well,
Israel,
you can
what
Google
were
is
the
your friend,
conditions of that
Doron.
agreement?
400
Wait,
people.
there was one
Hold on.
basic
You
condition.
can't just say I don't know
Guys,
the numbers.
we've
which
run
is
out of
my
time.
numbers are from the
We've
UN.
run out of time.
Southern Lebanon.
I'm sorry, we've run out of
You
time.
murdered 300 people last week,
Okay.
including a baby at her father's funeral.
I'm gonna
We
leave it.
murdered 300 terrorists last week, and I think those are your people.
Okay.
A one-year-old baby is a terrorist. I
That's
think
it.
that speaks volumes about your
I'm
view
going
of
to leave it
Arabs.
there.
The one-year-old baby was put in harm's way because
Okay,
Hezbollah
I'm gonna
created
leave it
Southern
there,
Lebanon
gentlemen.
At a funeral?
into battlefield.
I
They were put
appreciate
at
you
harm's way
joining
at a
me.
funeral?
We've run out of time. So
Wow.
thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pierce.
That guy is a real piece of work. Did y'all hear that? Making all these asinine excuses. You just murdered kids last week. And then he tries to blame it on the Lebanese and saying that they put the children in harm's way. He said at a funeral? So you literally killed a baby at a funeral. First of all, who's bombing a funeral? And I'm sure they did it all on purpose, okay? I'm sure they did it all on purpose. It absolutely is demonic, okay? This is all some sick stuff. Who does that? Okay, Mars Bloom said a baby's a terrorist now? Exactly. It's just amazing to me the things that came out of his mouth. But like I said, the guy that was on there last week, he was no better. Okay, he was no better. Now let's go to some of these posts that just came out about them, and then I'm out of here. So now listen to this. I'm going to share my screen because I find this absolutely egregious. First of all, let me show this clip. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Oh, let me get that off the screen. Let me get this off the screen. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Now, let's go to this clip on X. Because they had a meeting, and look what happened. Hold on, now I can turn this music off too. Okay, now listen. As you all see here, he put a swastika on their flag.
Powinna wyglądać dokładnie tak.
Dziękuję.
He called them the Third Reich.
Pan poseł Maciej Konieczny, koło Razem. Panie...
Powinna wyglądać.
Well, you know, if the shoe fits. Okay, if the shoe fits. Now listen to this. This is what a rabbi said. So I want you all to pay attention. This is a whole rabbi. Thousands of Ukrainian women are brought to Izzy for prostitution. They're deceived with promises of jobs as nannies in homes with a salary of $4,000 per month. But when they arrive, they're placed in underground facilities for prostitution for up to 20 years. Do you all hear this? Some of them were married in Ukraine and had children. This is trafficking. They're literally admitting to trafficking these Ukrainian women. Do y'all hear this? How is the U.S. complicit in this BS? Absolutely admitting to it. And look at him, looking so smug and all of that. Let me see if it's in English.
They do it for their own people, and they take their passport. Thousands of Ukrainian girls was imported to Israel to work in prostitutions. In every block, you have an apartment of Russian prostitute. We call it Russian because we do not know to tell the difference between Russian and Ukraine. They both look alike and they both speak Russian. We don't know to tell the difference. I guess the Russians, if they hear... So in other words, for us, the Israelis, we don't really know the difference. We don't know. They published in Ukraine, if you would like to come in and work in Israel in cleaning or au pair, raising...
Do y'all hear this? Now you know that they're trafficking them because he said they come and then they're put underground, then forced into prostitution for 20 years. Can you imagine these people coming there thinking they're trying to get a job so they can send money home to their families? And this is what happens. But hold on, because he's not lying. Because here's the paperwork right here. Someone says, I Googled it. Okay, and here's what it says. Human trafficking of Ukrainian women is not real is a documented issue involving organized crime rings that use deception and coercion. While reports confirm high recruitment and exploitation, specific figures such as thousands of women or 20-year detentions are often part of broader investigations rather than single confirmed cases. Methods of deception. Traffickers frequently use advertisements for legitimate employment, including roles as nannies, waitresses, or cleaners, to lure women into the country. He's not lying at all. High salaries, such as $65,000 monthly, are often promised to convince victims to travel. Now they're forced into prostitution and debt bondage. Upon arrival, many women have their passports confiscated. This is absolutely trafficking. This is what it is. He's admitting to this out loud. And we're sitting here acting as though there's nothing to see here, folks, in the Epstein files. including roles as nannies, waitresses, or cleaners to lure women into the country. Now, it goes on to say, upon arrival, many women have their passports confiscated and are told they must work as prostitutes to pay back debts for travel and housing. Investigations by the Times of Is Not Real and other outlets have documented victims being held in apartments and managed by crime rings. Scale of the issue. While thousands of Ukrainian refugees have fled to Israel since the 2022 invasion, the ASIF Association estimated that approximately 850 Ukrainian women were forced into prostitution in Is Not Real. I didn't mean to say it the last time. During the initial years of the war, historically, thousands of these women from the former Soviet Union were trafficked to Is Not Real during the 1990s and early 2000s. This is all so sad and egregious. This is absolutely deplorable. Just imagine these people having husbands and children at home and never coming back. It says legal action. Now, the Is Not Reals and Ukrainian authorities have collaborated to dismantle the trafficking networks. For instance, in 2023, National Police of Ukraine detained individuals for recruiting women for sexual exploitation in Is Not Real through Telegram. Please miss me with it. This is absolutely sad and pathetic, okay? At the end of the day, I have heard it all. I mean, the fact that he came out and said that so bold and blatantly, I mean, this shows you the entitlement. This shows you no fear of reprisal. This shows that there's no accountability, no culpability that they have to worry about, or that he at least had to worry about. He came out and said it out loud. Wow. Ashkan says Dubai does this to their laborers. This is absolutely egregious. I bet you Dubai won't come out and admit it out loud, though. This man said that, and everybody's like right there in front of everybody. This is all sad. Okay, this is absolutely horrendous. Okay, I have never heard of such nefarious behavior that someone would just be so willing to boast about. Because he was literally sitting there bragging about it as if this is fine. We'll do whatever we want. Who's going to check us, boo? That's what he was saying. Who going to check us, boo? Wow, really? Y'all, I absolutely cannot. This is crazy. Oh, gosh. This is absolutely crazy. Absolutely. Nene said they know they're protected. They have to know something, because why would you even come out of the mouth and say that? Wow. Nessa G said, I get sick to my stomach when people talk about visiting Dubai. I don't think anybody's going to visit there for a while, because due to the war, I heard that it's, almost in shambles. Okay. Anyway, with that all been said, I'm out of here. I'm going to conclude the broadcast. It's also sad. Everybody needs to be praying at this point, because this world's literally going to hell in a handbasket. Are y'all listening to the BS? And it's about to get worse. Okay, listen. Trump's got something up his sleeve for the midterms. He's definitely got something up his sleeves. I don't know what he's going to do. If he's going to put us all under martial law, what is he up to? If he's going to send the ICE agents to the polls to have them threatening and intimidating people who have interesting last names like Gonzalez, things like that. Maybe he'll say that the Black people, that we look like we're Africans or Haitians or Jamaicans or whatever, and then just try to get us up out of there from voting too. Who knows what he's going to do? Okay, who knows? This is all just going to get so much worse before it gets better. Another thing is, don't expect this war to end anytime soon. They're sitting there acting so, we're having talks and everything's going to be fine. We're coming to agreements. No, they're not. No, they're not. Satan Yahoo does not want to come to a peaceful resolution. Satan Yahoo does not want to stop this. He wants the total annihilation of Iran, because that who is standing in his way. Okay? That is who is standing in his way of controlling and dominating West Asia. Please pay attention. This is all sick. Anyway, listen, I love you all to life. I hope you all enjoyed the broadcast. I will be back in the morning, okay, for your morning wake-up call. Until then, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
With that gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got